First, I'd like to talk to you about the process. I'm sure you remember, and so do I, last year's campaign, and I think you remember the 2008 campaign. And I would like to quote you again what President Obama said during the campaign. Quote, "I'm going to have all the negotiations around a big table, televised on C-SPAN, so that people can see who is making arguments on behalf of their constituents and who are making arguments on behalf of the drug companies or the insurance companies." You seen anything on C-SPAN lately? Have you seen any change in Washington? Have you seen the same old pork? This is the worst I have ever seen. This is unsavory Chicago-style sausage making, which the American people strongly 2,400 pages of sausage making. Now, friends, that's wrong. Have I read it? Sure, I've been through the pages of this bill. I sent through hours and hours and hours of trying to fix this bill. But I can also tell you that there are things in this bill which we will not really uncover. For example, there is, I think it's $100 million buried in here somewhere for a hospital. And it describes the certain parameters of where that hospital has to be. And guess what? There's only one place where that hospital, Connecticut. Connecticut. That's the only place where that hospital could be built. Now you really have to read all the fine print in order to understand that. So obviously, you could bring down the costs of health care with medical malpractice reform. And let me just say, and I'm sorry I'm taking a little bit long, but there is an example of it. It's called the state of Texas. The state of Texas enacted reform. There's an increase in the number of healthcare providers. There's a decrease in lawsuits. There's a decrease in premiums that doctors have to pay because they put certain caps and curbs on malpractice suits in the state of Texas. We could do that all over this country. So that's one thing we need, is medical malpractice reform. Second thing, another thing we can do is let Americans go across state lines and get the health insurance policy of their choice. Because some other states have a better health insurance policy, let's go get it. You don't have to, shouldn't be confined to this state. Another one is wellness and fitness. My friends, one of the most famous men recently is the CEO of Safeway. Safeway has a health care plan for their employees that if they practice wellness and fitness, they don't smoke, they go regular checkups, they are members of health care, they give them actual cash in return. And guess what? Healthcare costs for Safeway have gone down because rewards, obviously, for wellness and fitness has obvious consequences. What the situation is, the context of all of this, if I could mention it to you. Thank you. You can't see this, so I'm going to read it to you. But here's the fiscal situation that we're in. We have committed a terrible act of generational theft. We have mortgaged our children and our grandchildren's future. The great thing about America, the magnificence of America, is that every generation has handed off to future generations a nation better than the one that we inherited. That's the greatness of America. I can't tell you, with what we are doing, that that'll be the case with the next generation of Americans. And I'm sorry to tell you that. But we have amassed debts of monumental proportions. And again, $787 billion stimulus package. Remember when the stimulus package was passed, they said unemployment would be at a highest of 8%? Check lately, it's 10%. Millions of Americans out of jobs. $700 billion for the TARP. $410 billion for the last year's appropriations bill that had 9,000 earmarks. 9,000 pork barrel earmarks. I mean, the most outrageous spending that you can believe. $3.5 trillion for the budget resolution. The list goes on and on. And now we're faced with a $2.5 trillion debt in the form of, quote, health care reform.
My question is really so much as I'd like you to kind of, you've been around a long time. You're a very knowledgeable man about the issues that confront our country. When you look at those boards up there, it can become bewildering. People argue on both sides of those issues. There are fair arguments on both sides of those issues. The people who argue for and against those things are neither good nor bad. They may be experiencing life differently from each other. Some people, why don't you let me have a chance to talk? So you can cut me off anytime you like.
Go ahead, please.
So that,
Please. We always try to show courtesy in town hall meetings. Please, sir.
I'm a Republican, by the way. The question really has to do with whether we're facing a crisis of finance or whether we're facing a crisis of character and values. How does it that a great society, the richest society in the world, the most advanced society in the world, the society that puffs up its chest and tells the rest of the world that it is the best society in the world, and we allow 40 million people to not have health insurance. He knows that's the truth. We allow another 30 million people to have substandard health insurance. So that people are denied health care, who in many cases are, everybody knows and has heard those stories. How is it that we do that when, sir, right behind you it says 2.5 trillion to implement the program? That's the same number that economists have come up with for the cost of the Iraq War until the time the last soldier dies. It's going to cost us 2.5 trillion. Now, we marched off to an unnecessary, unprovoked war. We marched off. It's your audience, please. Sir, it's your audience.
Please, but you're going to have to summarize, sir.
Okay. If we march off to a war that was unnecessary and unprovoked, it's going to cost 2.5 trillion. Why can't we insure our own people for 2.5 trillion? I don't understand that equation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And if I offended anyone with a lawyer joke, I apologize, but I've used that joke for too many years. And my lawyer friends chuckle and laugh as well because it's meant in good humor. I respect the legal profession in America. I do not respect some of the things that they do, which are involved in frivolous lawsuits, which simply
that someone like Ahmadinejad or Osama bin Laden or any of those cast of characters, before they became terrorists, were educated here in the United States, impregnated an American woman. Without that qualification that both parents need to be Americans, that child, that offspring, could run for President of the United States.
No.
Well, sir, I thank you very much, but I think not only our Constitution, but our Bible tells us the sins of the fathers are not visited on the children. So, I can tell you that I blame children for any crime that their parents had committed. I don't think that's in keeping with the Judeo-Christian principles upon which this nation was founded. But I appreciate the discussion and I appreciate your comment. Now here is a man.
My question is about unemployment. Every time if I ask everybody to take off all the stuff that made in the United States, it is not made in the United States. Most of us would be naked because everything is made in China. Or how can we get factories open in the United States and do we raise the tariffs again?
I don't think so, but I think what we really need to do is take more advantage of America's advantage, and that is in technology.